Welcome, gents. The most dangerous person is the one who listens, thinks, and walks away without saying a word. That's a Sigma male in a nutshell. In a world full of noise, control games, and power struggles, Sigma males are a quiet storm. They don't bark, they don't beg, and they never play dumb just to keep the peace. They're not trying to impress anyone, and that alone is enough to rattle manipulators and narcissists to the core. See, narcissists thrive on attention. Manipulators need reactions, but Sigma males, they give neither. They watch silently, assess deeply, and act on logic, not on emotion. You can't guilt trip them, you can't gaslight them, and you sure as hell can't corner them with fake affection or empty flattery. They're built differently. If you're watching this because you feel like you've always been too detached, too calm, or too quiet in a world that screams for validation, don't doubt yourself. You're not cold, you're not broken. You just see through people faster than most. That's a strength, not a flaw. The fact that you don't fear being misunderstood makes you powerful. You don't need a crowd to feel important. You don't chase applause. You don't play the game. And that's exactly what makes you the game changer. So if people have tried to manipulate you and failed, if they couldn't control you, confuse you, or get inside your head, congratulations, you're not the problem. You're probably a Sigma. And that scares the hell out of them. Let's get into it, gents. Number 1. They reject the spotlight narcissists crave. Narcissists need the spotlight like lungs need air. If nobody's looking, they start to suffocate. Their entire identity depends on being seen, praised, envied, even if it's fake. They don't care if the attention is shallow, as long as they're the center of it. Now picture a Sigma male walking in, calm, quiet, intentional, and completely indifferent to all that noise. That's where the power shift begins. Sigma males don't perform, they don't show off, they don't need applause or validation to feel real. In fact, the more people look at them, the less they reveal. They're not hiding, they're just not interested in being consumed by everyone's eyes. They live for purpose, not popularity. And to a narcissist, that's maddening, because a Sigma's indifference is like emotional starvation for someone who feeds on attention. Narcissists throw out bait, flattery, competition, fake admiration, hoping to pull Sigmas into their drama. But Sigmas don't bite. They observe, stay in their lane, and go right back to doing what actually matters. And that silence, that lack of interest, it hits harder than criticism ever could. See, narcissists are prepared to fight, argue, even manipulate. But they have no defense against someone who simply doesn't care. Someone who doesn't need the crowd, the praise, or the recognition. Someone who would rather build in peace than perform in public. If you've ever watched someone crave the spotlight while you quietly thrived in the background, you already know you hold the real power. Because when you don't need the room to see you, you can't be controlled by it. Sigma males don't reject the spotlight out of fear. They reject it out of freedom. And nothing suffocates a narcissist faster than someone who won't look their way, no matter how loud they get. Number 2, they ask questions. Narcissists hate answering. Narcissists hate being questioned, not because they don't have answers, but because their answers don't hold up. Their stories are built on shaky ground, half-truths, twisted facts, and carefully staged illusions. They rely on people being too polite, too distracted, or too afraid to dig deeper. Enter the Sigma male. He's not here to play along. He's not blinded by charm or fooled by surface-level stories. He watches quietly, listens carefully, and when something doesn't feel right, he asks. And not just any question. Sigma males ask precision-cut, well-timed questions that slide right under the mask and expose the machinery beneath. They'll ask, "Didn't you say something different last week?" Or, "Why did your story change halfway through?" Not to be rude, not to be confrontational, but because the truth matters. And they don't let it slide. This rattles narcissists to their core, because once they're exposed, they can't go back to charming the room. The Sigma has now introduced doubt. And not through yelling, but through calm, surgical observation. That's terrifying for manipulators who rely on confusion and fast talking to keep control. A well-placed question can unravel their entire act. And Sigma males aren't scared to ask them publicly. If the situation calls for it, they'll confront the lie in the open, but they're just as comfortable doing it one-on-one. Either way, the result is the same. The mask slips. If you've ever asked the question that made the whole room pause, if you've ever calmly poked a hole in someone's carefully built image, you're not being difficult, you're being clear. Sigma males don't stir drama, they expose it. And manipulators know, once the Sigma starts asking questions, the game's over. Because a truth seeker with no fear is a manipulator's worst nightmare. Number 3, they mirror behavior without emotion. Manipulators rely on emotional chaos. They push, pull, guilt, flatter, whatever it takes to stay in control. But all of it depends on one thing, your reaction. The moment you get emotional, they know they've got you hooked. That's how they gain power, by making you feel like you need their approval, their attention, or their apology. But Sigma males, they flip the script entirely. They mirror your behavior, but with zero emotion attached. If you go cold, they go ice. If you get distant, they vanish. If you play games, they won't complain. They'll just play smarter and with a straight face. And it drives manipulators crazy. Why? Because Sigmas don't mirror to win your love back. They mirror to show you exactly what you're doing. It's like holding up a flawless reflection to someone who's used to distorting everyone else's reality. They see their own behavior played back to them, stripped of drama without explanation, and it's uncomfortable. The real power? Sigmas do it without anger. There's no shouting, no begging, no guilt trips. Just a calm, surgical shift in energy. And that's what kills the emotional leverage, because now the manipulator doesn't know what to push against. There's no reaction to twist, no weakness to exploit. And the best part, the Sigma doesn't need to win the game. He's just not playing anymore. If you've ever quietly matched someone's energy without trying to hurt them, but simply to reflect their own behavior back to them, you already know the power in that. It's not revenge, it's clarity. And when clarity meets silence, manipulators crumble, because without emotional control, they lose their grip. Sigma males don't scream, argue, or chase. They just mirror you back to yourself and let your own behavior do the talking. Number 4, they never feed the ego monster. Narcissists don't just like praise, they depend on it. They need a steady stream of compliments, admiration, validation, anything that confirms they're special, superior, or more important than everyone else in the room. It's called narcissistic supply, and without it, they start to unravel. But Sigma males, they shut off the faucet. Sigmas don't hand out compliments like candy. They don't flatter to be liked, and they sure as hell don't inflate egos just to keep the peace. If you did something genuinely worth respecting, they'll acknowledge it with genuine brief words. But if you're fishing for attention, acting like the main character, or performing just to be admired, prepare to starve. Because Sigma males don't feed the ego monster. They see right through it, the exaggeration, the humble brag, the thirst for applause. While others may play along just to keep the narcissist calm, Sigmas go silent. They don't roll their eyes, they just don't participate. And that non-response, that blank, uninterested energy, it's devastating. To a narcissist, being ignored is worse than being insulted. An insult still acknowledges their presence, but indifference, that's emotional starvation. It means the Sigma sees them and still doesn't care. See, Sigma males don't live off attention, so they're not out there trying to win it. That's what gives them the upper hand. They're self-sourced. They don't need external approval, and they don't give it unless it's earned. So when a narcissist tries to bait a Sigma with, "Don't you think I did great?" or "Did you see how they all looked at me?" the Sigma just gives that slow blink and changes the subject. And that silence, that refusal to feed, it's a mirror that says you don't need applause, you need healing. But healing requires humility, and narcissists hate that. So when a Sigma withholds validation, it's not to hurt, it's to expose. Because if your worth depends on constant praise, you'll never survive a Sigma's silence. Number 5, they are intellectually dangerous. There's emotional intelligence. And then there's intellectual danger. And that's exactly what Sigma males bring to the table. See, narcissists thrive where people are too distracted, too emotional, or too trusting to question them. They twist stories, bend facts, and gaslight until everyone around them doubts their own memory. It works on most people because most people aren't trained to spot the lies hidden in charm. But Sigma males, that's a different beast entirely. Sigmas don't just feel things. They analyze everything: tone, timing, word choice, silence, body language. They don't just hear what you say, they catch what you don't say. And when something feels off, they don't react emotionally. They dissect it, piece by piece. They'll sit in silence while a narcissist spins a web of manipulation, just observing. And once the story's done, they'll drop one cold, cutting question that slices through the lie like a scalpel. Suddenly, the narcissist is exposed, caught, unraveling. Because you can't gaslight someone who remembers the exact details of what you said 3 days ago. You can't contradict yourself around someone who notices patterns and can recall inconsistencies like a machine. And you definitely can't play mind games with someone who refuses to play emotional chess. That's what makes Sigma males so dangerous. Their brain is a fortress, sharp, focused, unclouded by drama. They don't argue to win, they don't react to provoke. They just let your lies collapse under the weight of logic and facts, quietly, brutally. And that's what narcissists can't handle, being intellectually outmatched, being calmly exposed by someone who sees straight through the illusion. Sigmas don't come to fight, they come to reveal, and when the truth hits the table, there's nowhere left for the manipulator to hide, because you can't run circles around someone who walks in straight lines. Number 6. They don't give second chances to first-time offenders. Most people forgive too quickly. They brush off red flags. They say things like, maybe it was just a bad day, or they didn't mean it. And just like that, they hand second chances to people who showed their true colors the first time. Not Sigma males. They don't run on blind hope. They run on pattern recognition. When someone crosses a line, betrays trust, or shows signs of manipulation, the Sigma male doesn't wait for a second offense. He already got the message loud and clear. He doesn't argue. He doesn't explain. He just revokes access. And he does it ruthlessly, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Because to a Sigma, betrayal is a character check. And if you're willing to disrespect them once, you've already written your resume. There's no mistake when it comes to disloyalty. Sigma males don't confuse bad behavior with bad days. They trust actions over apologies. And if that action shows deceit, manipulation, or disloyalty even once, they don't wait for round 2. They change the locks on their time, their energy, and their emotional availability. No more access, no more explanations. And they sleep just fine afterward. That's what unnerves narcissists and manipulators the most. They're used to people sticking around, hoping for closure, waiting for change. But a Sigma male doesn't linger in the emotional hallway. He closes the door and walks away like you never existed. And here's the real twist. He doesn't do it with rage. He does it with calm finality, no fireworks, no scenes, just quiet, permanent distance. Because to a Sigma male, one strike is enough. He's not cold, he's just done. So if you cross him, don't expect a lecture or a warning. Expect silence, expect a locked door, and realize too late you never get a second chance with someone who doesn't need you back. Number 7, they know when to cut you off, ruthlessly. Most people struggle with cutting toxic people off. They wait, they explain. They give second chances, then third ones, hoping things will somehow change. Narcissists love that. They feed on the gray areas, the hesitation, the emotional back and forth. But Sigma males, they don't wait around. If something feels off, manipulative, draining, fake, they're gone. No warning, no dramatic speech, no long text messages about how they feel. Just silence. 1 minute you had access to them, and the next, the line's dead permanently. That's what makes them dangerous to narcissists. Because narcissists rely on dragging things out. They want to trigger emotions, spark confusion, twist guilt into control. But Sigma males don't leave that door open. They walk out and lock it from the other side. And they don't come back to check if you're okay. It's not heartless, it's survival. Sigmas aren't cold, they're just clear. They understand that toxic energy doesn't need to be managed, healed, or explained. It needs to be cut off. And the longer you stay connected to it, the more it feeds on your peace. So when a narcissist pushes too far, tests one boundary too many, or shows their true face, the Sigma doesn't get emotional. He just switches off access quietly, instantly, completely. And that silence, it drives narcissists insane, because they can't manipulate someone they can't reach. They can't control someone who doesn't need closure. And they definitely can't win over someone who disappears without fear, regret, or apology. Sigma males don't cut people off to hurt them. They do it because they value peace more than explanation. And if you were toxic, don't expect a goodbye. Just learn to live with the echo of your own voice. Because Sigmas don't argue, they exit. Number 8, they have no interest in controlling or being controlled. Manipulators love power struggles. They want to control how you think, feel, react, and move. And when they can't control you, they'll flip the script and try to provoke you into controlling them through worry, anger, or obsession. It's all a tug-of-war game designed to keep your hands on the rope. But Sigma males, they don't even show up to the match. If you try to push them, guilt them, or bait them into a reaction, they'll just walk away. No argument, no drama, no final word, just a clean exit, like none of it ever held any weight to begin with. And that's what breaks the manipulator's entire game. See, control only works if someone wants something from you, your approval, your attention, your emotional response. But Sigma males are self-contained. They don't need power over others, and they don't let others have power over them. That makes them completely unpredictable and totally unplayable. Try to boss them around. They'll disappear. Try to guilt-trip them. You'll get silence. Try to dominate. They'll shrug and leave. They don't cling. They don't chase. They don't force. And most importantly, they don't compete for control. Because what manipulator can win against someone who doesn't want to win? Sigma males understand something most people don't. The strongest move in any power game is not playing, just dropping the rope entirely. No resistance, no reaction, just freedom. That's why narcissists and manipulators hate them. Their entire strategy depends on emotional hooks. But Sigma males are hookless. They can't be lured in. They don't rise to bait. They don't get caught in loops of who's right or who's in charge. They just don't care enough to stay. So while manipulators waste energy setting traps, Sigmas are already gone. Unbothered, unreadable, and unreachable. Because in a world obsessed with control, the one who refuses to hold the rope owns the peace.
Number 9. They're not afraid to be the villain in your story. Most people are terrified of being misunderstood. They bend, twist, and shrink just to keep the peace. They stay silent when they should speak up, just to avoid being labeled rude or too much. Sigma males, they couldn't care less. If protecting their peace makes them look like the villain in your story, so be it. See, Sigma males don't live for approval. They're not chasing gold stars or good guy points. They don't lose sleep over whether you call them cold, heartless, arrogant, or distant. Because deep down they know this. The truth doesn't always wear a smile, and freedom, it rarely makes everyone comfortable. So when a manipulator tries to guilt them, twist facts, or stir drama, the Sigma doesn't backpedal or apologize. He just sets a boundary, says no, or walks away entirely. No warning, no drawn-out explanation, just a clean, silent break. And here's what really stings for the manipulator. They can't shame him back into submission. They'll try to paint him as emotionally unavailable, too intense or hard to love. But the Sigma won't bite. He won't defend himself. He doesn't need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding him. That's real power. He knows he'll be labeled the bad guy, for having standards, for not engaging, for refusing to be controlled. But that label means nothing to him. He's not trying to be the hero in your narrative. He's just trying to be honest in his own. And if that honesty breaks illusions, ends fake relationships, or offends fragile egos, good. Sigma males value freedom over image, peace over popularity, and truth over comfort. Manipulators want reactions. They want remorse. They want emotional proof that they still matter. But all they get from a Sigma is silence, detachment, and the cold realization that they're not in control. Because this man would rather be the villain in your fantasy than a prisoner in your script. Number 10. He's not shocked by darkness. Most people freeze when they come face to face with real manipulation. It's like seeing a side of humanity they didn't know existed, calculating smiles, twisted guilt trips, silent sabotage. And for many, it's paralyzing. They hesitate, question themselves, or try to explain it away. But the Sigma male, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't look surprised. He just nods, because he's already seen it before in others and in himself. That's what makes him so hard to manipulate. He doesn't need to believe people are all good to sleep at night. He's not clinging to fantasies. He's lived long enough, hurt deep enough, and watched people closely enough to know what darkness really looks like. And more importantly, he's already made peace with it. So when a manipulator shows up with fake concern or cleverly wrapped cruelty, the Sigma male doesn't recoil. He studies, observes, watches like someone who's reading a book they've read before. There's no fear in his eyes, just understanding, and that alone is terrifying to narcissists and manipulators. Why? Because most of their power comes from shocking you. They thrive when they can catch you off guard or leave you emotionally scrambling. But the Sigma male, he's calm,
steady, centered, not because he's naive, but because he knows. He's stared down betrayal. He's faced the truth about human nature. He's walked through personal darkness and came out clearer, not colder. So you can't spook him, you can't catch him wide-eyed. He's not disgusted by manipulation. He expects it, he spots it, and he chooses not to play into it. And that's what unnerves toxic people the most, because when you're used to getting power through fear, silence, or confusion, running into someone who's already seen the shadows and doesn't blink is like hitting a wall made of stone. No cracks, no entry, just a quiet message. I've seen worse, you don't scare me. A number 11, his energy reveals the fake in others. Absolutely. Here's a 350-word exceptional elaboration in day-to-day English, crafted to be deeply captivating, brutally honest, and packed with psychological depth to keep your viewers glued and nodding. You ever notice how some people walk into a room and suddenly everything changes? That's the Sigma male. He doesn't need to talk loud, show off, or dominate the space. His presence alone shifts the atmosphere. Why? Because he's real. And realness has a strange effect. It makes the fake very uncomfortable. The Sigma male doesn't wear masks. He doesn't pretend to like people he doesn't respect, or play roles just to be accepted. What you see is exactly what you get, unfiltered, unbothered, and unapologetically himself. And that kind of energy, it exposes everything that's not genuine. Narcissists hate that. They thrive in environments where image matters more than substance, where charm beats truth, where people are too distracted or too polite to notice the lies. But the Sigma male, he sees through all of it. And worse, he doesn't even need to try. He doesn't call people out loudly, he just looks at them differently. That quiet, unreadable stare, it rattles the manipulator to their core. They feel seen, not admired, not feared, seen, and that's terrifying. Because most people play along with the narcissist's script. They nod, they laugh, they feed the ego. But a Sigma male stands there like, "You're not fooling me." Without saying a word, he communicates something that hits deep. I see the real you and I'm not impressed. That unspoken clarity is like a spotlight on every lie in the room, so the masks start slipping. The energy gets weird. The narcissist becomes defensive, overcompensating, trying harder to win approval, and failing. The Sigma doesn't react. He doesn't perform, he just exists. And somehow, that alone threatens the entire illusion manipulators work so hard to build. Because when someone walks in with nothing to prove, everyone pretending suddenly feels exposed. Number 12, they never idolize anyone. Absolutely, here's a superb 350-word elaboration written in careful day-to-day English that's captivating, raw, and attention-grabbing. Here's something most people won't admit. Manipulators rely on being idolized. Narcissists need to feel like they're the smartest, the most charming, the most powerful person in the room. That's their trap. The second you start looking up to them, they start looking down on you. That's how control works. But Sigma males, they don't idolize anyone. Not a boss, not a celebrity, not even a partner. Respect, sure, but blind admiration, never. See, Sigma males have this quiet inner code. Nobody is above them, and nobody is beneath them. They treat the janitor and the CEO the same, because to a Sigma, titles and charm don't mean truth. They see through all that. They're not fooled by power suits, sweet talk, or shiny lifestyles. They look at actions, consistency, and energy, and if that doesn't match the hype, they'll walk away without blinking. This completely breaks the narcissist script. Narcissists want to be worshipped. They want control through admiration. But when they meet a Sigma male, someone who just isn't impressed, they don't know what to do. Their usual tricks fall flat. You can't control someone who doesn't put you on a pedestal. And Sigma males never do that. They keep their emotional footing grounded. They don't need a leader, a savior, or someone to follow. They're self-led. That's the real threat. And if you're someone who's always seen through the hype, if you've never been the type to kiss up to anyone just because of their status or charm, you might be walking the Sigma path. That's rare, that's powerful. And for narcissists and manipulators, that's terrifying, because you can't control a person who doesn't need your spotlight. You can only watch as they calmly, quietly walk away, untouched, unshaken, and absolutely free. In final words, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. If you're a Sigma male, understand this. Your quiet strength isn't a weakness. It's your greatest weapon. Narcissists and manipulators fear you not because you're loud or aggressive, but because you refuse to play their twisted games. You see through their smoke and mirrors, stand firm in your truth, and walk away when others get trapped in endless cycles of drama. You don't need anyone's approval, and that independence is terrifying to those who feed off control. Your calm in chaos, your refusal to idolize, your clear boundaries, these aren't flaws to fix, but shields that protect your freedom. Remember, being a Sigma male means embracing your complexity. The battles you've fought, the silence you hold, and the wisdom you carry. You don't chase respect, you command it simply by being authentic. So never apologize for walking away from toxicity. Never feel pressured to explain your distance. You owe your peace to no one. You terrify manipulators because you're unbreakable, not in some flashy way, but quietly, deeply, and without compromise. Keep owning your space. Keep trusting your instincts. Because the world needs more people like you, those who refuse to bend, those who hold truth above comfort, and those who know freedom is the real power. You are not alone. You are a force. And that is why you are feared. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.